intersection, a point where two or more things join. In Atlanta, the action of intersecting means much more. The interconnected nature of social categories such as race and class, as they apply to individuals or groups, can be traced through the city at key sites. Cousins Properties is uniquely dedicated to telling the story of converging streets at Buckhead Plaza in the City of Trees.
We take a very hardened look and have since day one in having art as a part of that intrinsic sort of environment that creates an innovative, creative, inspiring place. And that's been a part of our DNA as a company since day one.
Cousins Executive Vice President of Development, John McCall, drives the amalgamation of form and function, architecture and art.
When we start on a new project, I may have an idea or something and I'll call Ann and we'll sit down and have a conversation about it. And we'll talk through my crazy idea of what I would like to see or what I'm visualizing in a space, and she'll go out and think about it, come back with some ideas on paper of different artists that might fit the bill, different types of art that might fit the bill, and we'll begin the process that several years later, as the project finishes, we get to see that come to fruition in the physical pieces that get installed.
Critical to the Cousins process is Atlanta-based art consultant Ann Lambert-Tract, president of Atlanta-based Consult Art Incorporated, who assists in concept definition and artist selection.
John McCall and I have worked together for many years, and he and I have a sort of a good symbiotic relationship, I guess, and John will sort of text me ideas every now and again, and we'll sort of go back and forth, and I get a good sense of what's going on in his head. He's a really creative guy.
For years, we've owned Buckhead Plaza. It came to our portfolio as a part of the merger with Parkway in 2016. And we'd talked about doing a renovation of that plaza, and it really was in need of an uplift and a new sort of means to attract people to the property.
The size of the plaza was such that it required elements of definition. The question was, what would those components be?
Being as large as it is, it kept becoming an idea of that we needed to have something that would sort of designate different spots within that large area, different areas, almost like rooms.
With this project in particular, John was really thinking about intersections and how the intersection of Peachtree and West Paces Ferry was such a sort of significant intersection in the city of Atlanta. And he got to thinking about just how many incredible, important intersections there are within the city of Atlanta.
Here we sit at Buckhead Plaza at one of the famous intersections of Atlanta. It's the Buckhead intersection. It's 5 ways: Roswell, Peachtree, and Paces Ferry Road. West and East Paces Ferry Road come together. And so that's just one of many sort of famous intersections or streets and intersections in our city. And I said to myself, man, wouldn't that be cool if we could three-dimensionally somehow have somebody make those intersections?
That's Phil Proctor. He's our guy. So I immediately knew that Phil was the one to work on this project. And I had prior experience in working with Phil, knew that he was a great guy to work with, and just knew he would hit it off with John and the team and would make exceptional work for us.
Phil Proctor, owner of Nucleus Sculpture Studio, came into the project singularly skilled, not only in large-scale metal sculpture, but also maps.
It brought me to the family business that my grandmother started 3 generations ago. She founded a company called Tab Map Company. And that was the first place where I was really introduced to drawing in a formal sense. So I had a really rich background in maps. So it was very familiar for me to go right into this project and work with roads and lines and maps and two-dimensional surfaces. So that was a really familiar starting point for me on this project, and it brought me in on sort of a personal level.
Usually it'll be a much more rigorous process where I'll show John, 15, 20 options. But Phil was just the one right away. I mean, it really was identifiable to all of us. So we just immediately asked Phil to make a proposal for a lot of options and a lot of sculpture throughout the space. And then we really sort of hand-picked certain pieces and really thought about placement and impact, and then narrowed it down.
With everyone in place, it was time to select the inspiration for the art.
So as I selected the intersections, I intentionally did not select them based on their cultural history. I mostly selected them based on their imagery and their geometry. And the reason why is because each intersection is going to be unique for every person. Everybody's going to have a different relationship with that intersection.
However, the intersections Phil chose did indeed hold strong importance to Atlanta's storied timeline. Historical advisor Emily Frobos provided that context.
Initially, when these areas were settled by original Atlantans, they were more sparsely populated. So they were more serving farmland or waterworks. The waterworks were built on the Chattahoochee River, where our Bolton-Marietta intersection is. And then as the intersections that are closer to the railroad, these are the ones that have a lot more commercial business office spaces, office buildings, where there are lots of people living too, of course. So it's more densely populated. And so that's where where I found more interesting social history too. So for instance, the race riot of 1906 occurred right downtown with our Peachtree and Auburn intersection.
With all personnel and design decisions made, it was now time to take the project from concept to reality.
Yeah, so everything's kind of designed on the computer where the components kind of just mush into each other, but in the studio, obviously we have to cut out the forms where they overlap. So a lot of times I'll make templates and then I'll just take the pieces and fit them in like a key and slide them together until we reach their location.
At the site, the task of installing the pieces blurs the lines between art and construction one last time. Cousins Vice President of Development, Lou Conti, explains.
This artwork is substantial. You can take a look at Big Red behind me, and the structure supporting Big Red is 18-inch thick concrete, reinforced heavily, so that the artist could position Red where he needed to rotate it.
Once everything is done and dusted, all that's left is to track the history of this incredible journey. This job is the responsibility of Cousins Vice President of Development, Ambika Berta.
What we're going to have is on the signage of the art, there'll be a QR code, and that QR code will allow you to access a video, and the video will be a specific video for that piece of art that will tell the story of the creation of the art, the intersection that art is based on, and a little bit more about the artist and the overall team.
Cousins Properties is unique among developers in its careful attention to the culture and history of a community, as opposed to completing an attractive project and simply saying, space for rent.
It's a part of what we sort of design in from the point of beginning.